Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? God forbid. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Right?
Yeah.
I asked a good friend of mine over in Norfolk that builds his own guns. I said, Bill, his name is Bill. I said, Bill, what will you do when someone comes to your door and tries to take your weapons? He said this, Kenny, I live a good life. He says, and I'm ready to go. There are some things that you have to be willing to die for.
Amen.
That you have to be willing to die for. But we don't want that. Right? We don't want that. There's a socialist form of government forming on Capitol Hill. Socialism and liberty do not mix. They are oxymorons, okay? We are talking more about than just about confiscating guns. Our freedoms are about to be confiscated. That's what their agenda is. Now, y'all be patient with the rest of the speakers. I promise you, we'll be out of here no later than 5 minutes after they're done.
Thank you. By the way, I should have said that earlier. We got some coffee over here, and cookies, and other things that been made. So please, yes.
If you do not get your question in or your concern, please post it on Facebook. That way we can all work together. We are a team. We are all Americans. We all love our life, we love our state, and we love our country. So we're not going to get everything in we want tonight. That's the beauty of our page. It's the beauty of how we have become who we are as a group and a team. We would not be here without everybody putting forth some effort in some way. And I am just so honored to be here in a group of patriots that love our life and our country and our state as much as I do. So I just want to thank you all so much.
Thank you, David. Okay, so real quickly, do we have anybody else that would like to say something? Okay. To add one thing to what she said too, also, maybe better yet than just making a post, we do have an email website. It might be better to email us any suggestions that you have like that. The reason is I try and several of these others do, but we all have jobs, we sleep and stuff. And so, if you post it on Facebook, there's a good possibility we may miss it, but if you email us, we're going to have it. We're going to have a record of it, and when we have our next meeting, we're going to discuss it. So that may even be a better way, unless you're just looking to get some input or some feel. Yeah, maybe do both, but make sure you email us so we don't miss it. So anybody else real quickly? Go ahead, and then I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to let Jeff talk to us a little bit, and then we're going to kind of wrap things up.
I'm kind of like Buddy here. I've never really been involved. I've always voted, but never really got involved until recently. He was talking about getting together, contacting all these different sites. Well, as it turns out, there's over 140 different sites across the state. Second Amendment sites, Republican sites. I got a list of them, and I send them several posts every week. One of the things that I read on one of these posts, and I thought was a very good idea, and I want to throw it out here. Maybe you can help me with it. Contact SGK, various other gun show producers, and have them set up a voting table, voting registration table. Let those people that do register a discount to go to these gun shows. Maybe it gives them an incentive to go to the gun show. It will, in effect, help us all in the end. So that's just one thing. He was also talking about elections. This year, of course, we have the House of Representatives and we have the Senate. There have been times in which we didn't have a Democrat running. There's only one district this year that does not have a Democrat running. That's Northern Virginia District 11. Every district has got a Republican running this year, which is a good thing. Also for Senate, this year, Mark Warner is up for re-election. Eight people are running this year to try to get that seat from him. So that's a good thing. This is the year to, we can really get involved, but we do have to get our people, get everybody that you know registered to vote.
I just want to add one thing to that. Whenever you have a candidate that runs, you're never going to find the perfect candidate. I never have in all of my life. But you have to look at the candidate that's going to make the biggest difference in what you believe. And you must support that candidate, and you must vote. Just to say, well, because he doesn't support this, or I don't like this about him, if he's the better one of the two, you need to vote. Because if you don't, this is what happens. Okay?
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Burke. The Jeffrey is spelled with a G, like the giraffe. Although I think I've been around longer than he was. But I'm a candidate for Congress. I'm one of those people that are lining up to run against Bobby Scott. Bobby Scott's been up there for 28 years. And just with a handful of times that someone run against him. And that's because it's a very intimidating district. It's D plus 16, if you look at it from the political perspective. And that makes it pretty tough for a Republican or a conservative or anyone other than him to win. Plus, he has a lot of the influence of being an incumbent on his side. Things are kind of weighted for incumbents in our system. I'm really, really happy to be here tonight. I'm from originally the most extreme western parts of the original Virginia colony. It's known today as Michigan, but it was originally part of Virginia. My undergraduate training is in history, and the focus of my study was in colonial American history. So when I got orders in the U.S. Navy to settle in Norfolk area, I was pretty thrilled. I felt like I was coming home to my real roots. As it turns out, I do have roots here. On my dad's mother's side, I can trace my lineage back to John Rolfe and his Indian wife, Pocahontas. And I'm really proud of that. On my mother's side, some of her family were on the Mayflower. So I feel like there's a legacy in me that's been screaming my whole life to get engaged and to get us back where we were before, where popular sovereignty was a very real thing, where the government was small and people were free. I had a 20-year career in the Navy. Most of that time was spent on the West Coast, and I learned a lot out there. I was able to travel with the Orient about 3 times on cruises. With an undergraduate degree in history, you end up looking at people and people groups and cultures a slightly different way than most people do. And then I had a cruise in the Mediterranean, and I was able to visit some places in Europe. And so I've been able to travel around the world with the Navy. I had a 20-year career. I retired as a lieutenant commander, and I was with the ships. And I'm really proud of that experience. I don't miss it. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I know there's veterans in the room. Raise your hands. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The place I grew up in Michigan is very much like here. In fact, as I was driving in, I was feeling like I was kind of driving back home. And when I got out of the truck, and I smelled cow manure, it wasn't offensive to me at all. It was taking me back. And I'm really proud to be able to tell you that. We're here at a Second Amendment event tonight, and I think what you're doing here is really important. I was one of the people that was up at Richmond for Lobby Day a couple weeks ago, and I was thrilled to be part of that assembly. I was really thrilled to be part of a group of Americans who were willing to get off work, come out and do this. It was a cold, it was a miserable day, and we left the place cleaner than we found it. I'm proud of that because that's who we are as a people. It's not the people you hear about in the news, but that's who we are as a people. I don't want to take much of your time because you're out and it's in the middle of the week. I want you to know that I'm running against Bobby Scott. There are 3 other men going to be on your ballot when you go to the polls on June 9th, which is the Republican primary for this race. I've met all of them. They're all good men. They're all godly men. But I'm the candidate that you need to choose. Because I'm up here today and I'm talking to you today as the candidate that's been preparing for this role my entire life. When I was in 9th grade, I had kind of it's a little spooky, and I don't really know how to describe it other than to say that it was a revelation. But by the end of my 9th grade year, in a little town in southern Michigan, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was going to be a career naval officer, which I did. I was going to be an educator, which I did when I left the Navy. I taught at Stonebridge School over in Western Branch as a high school history, 9th and 10th grade history teacher, and I taught Old Testament survey. And the next vocational calling that I had in this, I don't know if it was a vision or what, but I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I was going to be in elected office as my last real function in my life. So this started. There's been a gap between when I was in the schoolhouse and when I'm running this campaign now. And it's been because I haven't been ready to start. But I have been never more ready to start in this role in my life than I am right now. Let me just tell you, I am a born-again Jesus follower. That's the most important thing in my life. One of the things that's been such a disappointment for me in the political arena in our country is that people like me have stepped away from the ballot box. They've stepped away from running for positions of authority. And when people like me do that, when people like you don't vote for people like that, when people like you don't take the positions that we should take as men and women of God, then someone else's voice enters the public debate. And it's not a godly voice. Okay, I'm not here to tell you how you need to worship God or what church you need to go to. I'm not here to tell you if you're Jewish or screwed up. I'm not here to do that. But I believe that the Bible is a handbook for human life and human existence. And it's not just about our salvation experience that Jesus Christ brought to us. It's about every aspect about human life. I think if you look at the Bible closely, you will find that it's a textbook for political science, for economics and business, for commerce, for every part of our life. There is instruction in there for those who would just see it. I want to take that to the halls of Congress, a perspective that's biblical in nature. I mentioned I taught at Stonebridge for 5 years. My undergraduate degree is in history, and the focus was in early American. And that's another really exciting reason I'm so excited about living in Virginia, because this is where it all started. One of the things I learned at Stonebridge is that there's another view of history that we don't get in typical schools. It's called the providential view of history. It's a God's eye view of what's going on down here on the dirt. We know, for those of us who spend some time in the book of Revelation and the other books that talk about the end times, that there's an end state that he's going to get us to. And we know kind of where it started. We're in the middle somewhere. If we're called Christians, if we're called his people, then we have a role to play in getting us to the end state. He's going to get us there. Our choice is, are we going to be involved in that? The blessings in the involvement, the blessings in the service, the blessings in getting out and doing what we're called to do. This is my calling. The 3 other candidates you're going to meet at some point, they're good men. But it's not their calling. It's mine. In fact, I came to the sense today that the only reason they're in the race is to keep me off my butt, thinking and praying about what needs to happen next. Okay? I tend to be a little bit of an academic, and I love that about me, but it's where the rubber meets the road where things need to happen. This is the Second Amendment group. I'm thrilled to pieces to be here with you. But there's a whole lot of other things going on. I am an ardent Second Amendment advocate. The Second Amendment is the Second Amendment on purpose. It's right there in the front. The first one's even more important. But without the second one, we can't defend the other ones. Right? So this is important, and I'm so happy to see so many people here. young people, people of all ages, men and women. Look at all the women here. I'm thrilled to see the ladies here. That's wonderful. I think the only other thing I need to share tonight, I just want you to know my name. It's Jeffrey, it's spelled with a G. The last name is Burke, B-U-R-K-E. I have a couple of petitions over on the table there against the wall next to the food. So when you go get the food, you just kind of swing by. The rules are I have to have 1,000 valid signatures on the petitions plus a filing fee by the middle of March. What's a valid signature? You have to be a registered voter and you have to live in the 3rd district. All of Isle of Wight County is in the 3rd district. Bobby Scott's been there way too long. 28 years is too long for a man like him. Do you know, I'll stop after this. He's been there 28 years and he's authored 3 pieces of original legislation, and every one of them was to rename or name a post office. Now, I'm glad these post offices have names, but for a man who's been up there 28 years, who has consistently voted a very socialist-leaning Democrat Party line, it's time for him to go. I'm happy to shake his hand and thank him for his service. And it's time for him to go.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jeff, and please go over and sign this petition. At least so he can get on there, you know. Okay, so Jeff, real quickly, can you run us over a little bit about what we might do, you know, as far as forming the group financially?
All right, folks, thank you very much for hearing me. I'm Jeff McFarland, and I do also spell my name with a G. Future congressman. My mother's fault is, so I've dealt with that my entire life. I am a practicing attorney here in Smithfield. My office is down on South Church Street. And Buddy gave me a call a couple of days ago and asked me if I would join in on this effort, and I said I would. And so I made a couple of notes, and I'll be real concise because I know it's 8:45 and people want to get home. So the first thing I want to say is, those pieces of paper that are on your tables, make sure you get your name and your address or email address on that list so that everybody up front here knows who you are. Second thing, I want to thank each one of the speakers that have spoken. I'm not going to call you all out by name, but I do want to bring a little bit of attention to Bill Coburn. Bill, thank you so much for being here tonight. For those of you who have heard Delegate Emily Brewer's name mentioned here, I don't know her personally, but I'm going to tell you what, we're blessed to have somebody who's involved. And if you don't get yourself out there and help her stay involved, there are people that are going to try to remove her from office, so let's get it done. All right? Joe Walters, thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. Wherever Joe is, that was excellent. I want to also thank Leanne. Leanne put together the bylaws that Buddy passed to me yesterday and said, hey, I know it's late, but can you review these? And it's a real good, strong effort. I want you to all understand that bylaws are not our operating agreement. It's not our operating rules or policies or procedures. It's basically the organizational structure of this entity. And so we'll figure out how that's going to go forward. It looks real, we got a real good start there. Buddy asked me to take a look at whether we would become, whether it's wise for us to become a 501c3 organization. That is a tax-exempt rating or judgment by the Internal Revenue Service, the Federal Internal Revenue Service. It's my judgment that this is probably not the smartest thing for us to consider doing. It sounds great on its face, hey, let's be tax exempt. But I'm going to tell you what, it's an expensive and a drawn-out process to get certified or designated as a 501c3. And the most important thing, drawback from that is, let me back up and tell you, probably all of your churches are 501c3 organizations. All right? The biggest negative for us becoming a 501c3 is that the IRS will pull our 501c3 status if we engage in trying to influence legislation. All right? So I think that's probably one of our foremost agenda items. And therefore, there are other opportunities for us to become an organizational structure if we're going to, in fact, incorporate. we can become an S corporation. I've done some additional research, and it turns out that Virginia has put something in place that I was not familiar with until I started researching it, called a social benefit corporation. Anybody here heard of that before? A social benefit corporation? All right, good. So a social benefit corporation is just what the name implies, an organization created for the general public benefit of society. What we're trying to do here is educate the public on what's going on. You've heard this gentleman up here talk about all kinds of opportunities and websites all over the place, but if we don't focus our efforts, we're not going to be successful. So we need to get focused on what we're doing, and perhaps becoming a social benefit corporation will give us the structure that will allow us to move forward. So I'll look into that a little bit more and advise the other members of the board on what perhaps would be the best way forward. We'll incorporate those laws, and if necessary, go forward and get ourselves established as an organization structure and a corporate structure with the State Corporation Commission. Yes, sir, you got a question?
Real quick to support what he's saying, I just did work on my taxes today. On the new tax law, tax deductions are not like they used to be. Somebody's going to make a deduction and they get doing their taxes, they're going to find out they didn't get any benefit because as a married couple, I got $24,000 worth of exemptions. The standard deduction now is $24,000 for a couple. With a house, interest and all that, I don't even meet that amount. So everybody's going to take the standard deduction now. So this thing is a thing of the past. It's not going to help people. So I agree with what you're saying for that reason.
Very good. Thank you very much for sharing that. I got a couple of other comments. I know the hour's late. I had right at the top of my list of things to say is to tell you a joke. So I'm going to pause for a minute and tell you a joke to lighten things up a little bit. Okay? Buddy indicated to you that I'm an attorney. I mentioned to you I've got to practice in town. One of the things they taught us in law school, are there any other attorneys in the room? The other? They taught us in law school, do not tell lawyer jokes. It denigrates the profession. It's not a good thing. But I got to tell you something. I was reading the Daily Press today, and I could not believe what I saw. There was an article there that said that the FDA had recently approved the use of lawyers for medical experimentation instead of white mice. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was intrigued. I had to read on. And so they cited 3 reasons that the FDA had made this landmark decision. Number 1, they said there certainly are more lawyers than there are white mice. That's the first reason. The second reason is people just don't get as attached to their lawyer the way they do to their white mouse. And the third and most important reason is there are just certain things you can't get a white mouse to do. So I throw that out for your consideration. 2 other comments. You've heard an awful lot tonight about getting involved. I want you to know that I'm also reaching out to Tim Anderson and other legal teams. You may be familiar with the name Mike Imperfect.